conheço. Vambora! Tarde demais. Vocês não acreditaram. Querem mostrar uma coragem que não existe? Pois então fiquem. Sofram. Assistam. À meia-noite levarei tua alma.
Hello and welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about two movies every week, every Tuesday and Thursday. But today we are talking about 1964's At Midnight, I'll Take Your Soul, directed by and starring Jose Mojica Marins. And this is our very first Brazilian movie.
Yeah, right. I think this week is a really good week because we got two different movies from different sides of the globe. So I think that's exciting getting into this.
Yes, Russia and Brazil have lots of things in common.
Oh, yeah, very, very similar.
Yeah, I always go to Russia for Carnival.
Yeah, exactly. The Day of the Dead in Russia. Beautiful time to be there.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, this movie, what we're talking about, it's actually part of a trilogy and it's part of the villain Coffin Joe, which is the unofficial name of the character. But it is basically that this guy is a total bastard. I mean, that's pretty much the best word to describe him, I would say.
You're not wrong. This man's just like an asshole. That's like the best way to describe him. He's like an annoying Reddit atheist that just it's just mean all the time. It seems like no fun to be around.
Which he's not very fun to be around, and basically throughout the movie he's just killing people and just terrorizing this town. But he's got friends though, and I'm like, so that's the only thing I thought was the weird part of the movie. It was he actually had friends and he actually had a girlfriend in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know how his girlfriend could stand to be around him. Right?
Right. Because I don't think it was a switch just clicked and he automatically became a bad guy. I mean, I think it was he was always kind of like that, wasn't he?
I think so, because besides the actual intro of the movie, which we'll get into, how we get introduced to this character is he's going to eat at the dinner table, right? And his girlfriend serves him meat, and he's like, I don't want meat. The girlfriend doesn't serve him meat. And he's like, hey, I want meat today. And she's like, it's a holy day. You can't eat meat. And he's like, I'll even eat human meat. And storms out angry at her, how badly he wants meat on a holy day. And you know what this asshole does? He eats the meal in front of holy people, in front of priests and stuff. He just is munching on meat, eating it haha, I get to eat meat today. That's our intro.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think I don't think this was a gradual turn. I think he was always kind of like this. But
I think so.
Despite all that, he has a very thriving personal life.
He does. What a dude. He must have a really great person. Maybe not a personality, just people look at him and like his top hat or whatever. And okay,
yeah,
I know that guy.
I mean, have you ever met a bad guy wearing a top hat? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No. I've never met a bad guy named Coffin Joe either. So
no, never.
Because I've never met a Coffin Joe.
I've never met a coffin, so.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing, I'd say.
But no, so I do want to get into the opening of the movie. So I really like movies that open like this, where it opens with him, the main character, at first just going what is death? And it's the ending of his existence, and life is just existence before death. and then there's an old gypsy woman, like a witch. It's like, don't watch this movie. And so I shut it off right there, and I didn't see the rest of it.
Wow. Great warning. Don't you love it when a movie like warns you before watching? Like, hey, don't watch this movie. It's violent. You'll go to hell.
I watch it every time, which is why I've never seen the movie Frankenstein, because when they open with the guy saying this movie is terrible, scary, I shut it off. I mean, I take everybody's word very seriously.
How many times have you tried to watch Frankenstein?
Just the one time, because he told me never to watch it.
Oh, okay. I assumed that you just like kept turning it on and seeing if he would say anything different the next time. Like, no, this time it's okay.
I heeded his words.
Okay, good. But no, I love it. It's like an old horror host. She's like a little witch, right? She's like, don't watch the movie. She's holding the fake skull. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really funny because she even says, like, you people in this theater, you will once you walk out of it, you will be cursed.
Yeah. Get into the meat of it. Honestly, for a 1964 audience, what you see in this movie is probably the most violent thing you saw.
Honestly, I mean, like, even by today's standards, I mean, I know we've seen some really crazy stuff. Like, for a 1960s black and white movie, this movie is crazy.
I was with the so surprised. I like, eyes get gouged out. There's like dead bodies and it's graphic. I don't know. It was, especially for the first horror movie in Brazil, which is what they say. You really start out with a banger, where like Russia's first horror movie is like close to a children's movie.
Yeah, like this makes Vive look like it's like a family film. So
exactly. I would definitely not show this to kids even today. It's not like, oh, look how quaint this was.
Which, yeah, well, I mean, like in the opening credit sequence, it's like really super cheesy, like horror, like haunted house, like Halloween decorations. It's like, here's an owl, here's the full moon, here's a skull, and then it's just right away they like, one of the most gruesome scenes is when he breaks a bottle and like chops a guy's fingers off.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That bar scene. I think that's when it really, really shocked me. Cause like, the bottle just doesn't bloody his hands. It chops one finger off. Like, it just goes right through it.
Yeah. He goes straight down with the jagged end of the bottle, and it's just the guy's like, it goes right through the guy's finger, like a real like clean cut. And
yeah. And not only that, Coffin Joe, not once, but multiple times, he sexually assaults women throughout the movie. It's like, he's just an awful person. Like,
he's a terrible human being.
And he does it in such a weird way too. He ties up a woman and then makes a spider crawl on her. It's like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. He tries to get a woman, like, he sexually assaults all these women, and it's basically him like trying to get like his next Spawn to be made. And which, it's funny because he hates pretty much every living human being except for kids. He loves kids.
Yes. Yeah. And this guy really wants a kid. That's like that's his driving point. He wants a child to continue his bloodline. Otherwise there's no point to living.
Because there's one scene where he notices like a father like beating his son.
Yeah.
And then he goes and stops him. He's like, how dare you? Like, that's your next of kin. Like, he's continuing your bloodline.
Yeah, out of all the people to scold someone for being a bad person, Coffin Joe does not need to be that one guy.
Sexual assault, all for it. Child abuse, no way.
Not good. Yeah, it's so bizarre. I'm trying, because like I think that's the one time he's redeeming in this whole movie. I don't think there's ever any like hint of like a good person in this.
No, absolutely not.
No.
And even then, it's just because he's like trying to fulfill his own needs and get like a new child.
Mm-hmm.
But he murders though his girlfriend because she can't bear children, and like you said, he puts a spider on her, and the spider bites her, and She just dies instantly.
Yeah. He ends up going on like this murder rampage almost to find a woman that will be suitable to bear his child. What's funny is every time he commits a murder, the police do find the body. He doesn't really hide the bodies, but he's never implicated in any murder. They just like interview him and they're like, I don't know who could have done this. And he says the same thing. Like, I don't know who did this.
Which it's all, yeah. And all the people that die are people connected to him. Mm-hmm. It's like his friend dies. His best friend's girlfriend dies. His girlfriend dies. And it's just like, and they're like, hey, you got really bad luck here. I was like, I don't know who could have done this, but it's definitely not you.
Yeah.
But then one of them does suspect it's him, the doctor, and that's where he gouges the doctor's eyes out because he's got these super long fingernails, and he just does like the Three Stooges eye poke, which is so weird. Why you wouldn't suspect this guy, because he has a reputation of being like a sadistic person. He goes into a bar and he chops a guy's finger off. He beats one guy within like an inch of his life, and he tries to assault the female barmaid. So it's not like he's, like I said, he's got this really bad reputation. And the only thing I was wondering throughout this whole movie is like, okay, this is one guy. It's not like he's got supernatural powers or anything. This is one small bearded man, and these people are just letting him terrorize their town.
It's really weird too. They let him treat everyone like garbage and like just like beat the crap out of everybody in this bar. But sometime later in the movie, a woman walks in and he's like, I'll walk you home, ma'am. And everybody's like, yeah, okay. He's walk her home. And she's even like, okay, walk me home.
Well, in that scene, because he had just gotten done, like one guy, he was trying to give the female barmaid like money, and like her uncle or whatever was like, no, I'm not taking, she's not taking your filthy money. So he takes a crown of thorn off of a Jesus statue and like shoves it in the guy's face, and the guy's like face gets like torn apart.
Yeah.
He doesn't die from it, but yeah.
Yeah, that was actually one of the more brutal moments in the movie, I feel like, because the crown of thorns is just really sharp and it just goes right into his head. I guess that's another thing to really talk about this movie. I guess when it came over to America, it wasn't really banned because of like violence. It was more for sacrilegious reasons. This movie is very, well, I wouldn't say the movie's anti-religion, but Coffin Joe is an anti-religious character. Very anti like God. It's something, because he has a whole speech multiple times through the movies that religion doesn't exist, there is no God kind of deal.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like you said, there was the scene where he's eating the meat on the holy day, and then he has this really long like monologue too, where there's like a big storm outside, and he's just like shouting in his house, like, it's like, if you're really up there, strike me down, like, there is no God, I have no God. And
yeah, and I mean, nothing happens, right? At least at that point. Now, and I mean, that's the one scene I knew before going in the movie, because I think we both had seen the James Rolfe review of this movie, and this one stuck out to me. This 15-minute, maybe a little bit shorter than that, but just a giant monologue where he's just screaming, hamming it up, throwing like scenery around, props. It's something. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was very like well done for a horror movie. It did something completely different than the rest of the movie.
Right. I mean, there was hardly any cuts too in that one scene too. It was almost completely one shot.
Yeah, so this man was giving it his all. I guess this is a passion project, and you can really tell, because I mean, the guy who plays Coffin Joe directed the movie as well, and I think like his performance really shows. He really captures this. I mean, we're talking about how much we hate this guy, how evil he is, and that's just because his performance is done so well.
Which is funny, because I mean, this was on IMDb trivia about it, so I don't know how legitimate it is, but it said that there was originally a different person supposed to play the main star, or to play the main character, but they quit for whatever reason. So the director's like, I'll step in and play the role. And he gives a really great performance in it. I mean, like I said, like he plays a terrible human being, but he's so dynamic in it. You want to see what he's going to do next.
Exactly. Yeah. He really embodies that role. And like, it's it's definitely a movie. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it's put together scene to scene well, personally. Things kind of happen and then the next scene happens. There's not as much of a connection, but I didn't mind that really, because I liked seeing where this movie went, where it was going to go next. What was the next kill? What was Coffin Joe going to do?
Yeah. And I would have liked to see a little more interaction between him and some of his like other characters. Like I said, he's got Antonio, and Antonio is dating this woman. And the woman that Antonio's dating, he's like, that's the woman who's going to bear my children. And, but like I said, he plays this terrible human being. So there's not like at any point where they feel like, oh, well, yeah, he is a good person. You know, he doesn't like even pretend to be like a good person when he's around them. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to, you know, he still says all these really sacrilegious things, and they just kind of put up with it. And I'm like, why are they friends with him? I don't get that.
Yeah, I feel like he would be the town outcast in any situation like this. Like, oh, that guy's just an asshole. Don't talk to him, kind of deal.
Right. And he does eventually kill his best friend, and he rapes his best friend's girlfriend right after he died, and like right after the funeral too. So she's like in the middle of mourning her ex-lover, and then he's just like, okay, it's like, and basically after he rapes her, he's like, okay, you're gonna bear my children. And just as a last, the only thing she can do to like defy him is she kills herself. And that was a really horrific scene too. She's just hanging there, her lifeless body, she just hung herself.
Yeah. Luckily for Coffin Joe, things do at least catch up to him in the end. It's not a movie about someone who has like a reign of terror and just like gets away with it. He does. Karma comes back at him pretty much.
Right. And it's foretold like in the middle of the movie. The gypsy woman, she appears and she predicts like how they're all going to die. She just said, because Antonio and his girlfriend are like, oh yeah, we're going to be married. And she's like, no, that's not going to happen. Something terrible is going to happen. And then when he shows up, she's like, and you, like, all your past misdeeds are going to haunt you. And that's what it is. Like, and the reason how it gets the title, At Midnight, I'll Take Your Soul, it's because the ghost of his ex-girlfriend threatens and says, your soul's going to be taken at midnight.
Yeah, by Satan himself. Yeah. And in the end of this movie is like a classic, like, horror, like, big bombastic kind of weird ending, because like it has weird filters over like weird imagery of like ghost women, like it's like black and white but has like some weird stuff. There's like a guy holding a candle, if I remember right, and it has like a weird like cartoon animation style all around him. It's cool. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel like some of them were like in the negative exposed too, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that sequence a lot. And he actually runs to the tomb of his best friend and the ex-girlfriend, and he rips open the coffin because he's like, if I see their dead body, then I know they can't come and kill me. And then he takes it off, and you see like their decomposing body. Like the girl is like covered in maggots, and the guy's covered in spiders. Yeah,
it's actually like really freaky. These dead bodies, the look in their eyes, I don't know. It was kind of freaky to look at.
It was, and especially the maggots. I'm like, they really just poured like maggots on this woman's face.
I know. Yeah. Same with because the spiders are, this is 64. It's not fake. And then people have like these giant like spiders crawling on them. Like, ugh, it's gross. Like, gross that they got to handle all these animals.
Right. But it was a really good ending, and he finally does get his comeuppance in the end. Yeah. And it was a satisfying conclusion. It was he finally felt like, okay, there was a little bit of justice at least.
Yeah, I think if you look up anything from this movie, you got to look up the ending, like, image of this movie, because it's very striking. The very final shot. It's cool. It's the getting to see what happens to Coffin Joe. It's worth seeing.
So would you recommend this movie, Nathan?
I would actually. I would. I actually like this movie more than I thought I would. I don't know. It's just a really cool horror movie. I mean, like, even from like, it's not even like an historical standpoint. I just think it's kind of a freaky, weirdo like horror movie. Coffin Joe is a really interesting character. He's up there with like other like horror icons, I think, or at least I know in Brazil he's huge. So I think it's worth checking out. What about you?
I would. It's really good. If you're a big horror fan, I mean, I think this is definitely one you should check out. Like I said, it is a little gory. So, I mean, if that's not your thing, but if you love horror, I mean, I think you should definitely check it out. And it's making me want to see the other movies, because there was another one in 1967, which is a direct sequel. And there was like a third movie at one point, but it wasn't like an official sequel. But then Jose Mojica Marins made a actual third one in 2008. So he's like a much older man, and so he was making movies up until pretty recently. He died just like 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, not long ago. So rest in peace. But yeah, I mean, for sure, I'd love to return the Coffin Joe. I feel like we definitely have to at this point, right? That's going to be on the to-do list eventually.
Absolutely, and I think it's definitely a worthy addition to what the movies that we've talked about, and I'm glad we can kind of expand our worldview and see that there are other movies that are worth talking about out there.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, that about covers it.
So since that covers everything, Nathan, what will we be talking about next time?
So next time, it's the return of Roger Corman with Barbarian Queen. That one is streaming right on Tubi, and it's actually on YouTube as well. So
absolutely. Cannot wait. Everyone loves Roger Corman.
Oh, yeah.
We've never seen one bad Roger Corman movie.
He always puts out quality. If you have any opinions on this episode, or if you want to share some thoughts about Barbarian Queen, if you've seen it before, send us an email over at drivein-doublepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time.